and I'm back to do part 2 of my little updates. I kind of forgot what else I needed to say, but then I started watching Her Name Was Steven, and it brought back some things that I've kind of been wanting to make a video about for a while, but haven't gotten around to it because of everything that's been going on. But I want to talk about disclosure and coming out and being open about being trans, specifically if you are pre-op and non-T. Obviously, before you take T and before you medically transition and when you're just presenting as male and binding and packing and all of those superficial external things, I think it's going to be a lot harder for most people, most guys, to pass. I got pretty lucky in that my body is of a masculine shape, just as I was talking about in my video prior. And I lucked out in the voice department. Typically my voice is pretty low. Right now it's not because I've been up for a little while and I sang a little bit. But usually just packing and binding, I can pass about 75 to 80% of the time. And I am not at the point yet where I will correct people I don't know. Like if I go to the gym and I'm checking in and someone uses a female pronoun, I'm not going to jump all over them about it. My name is pretty androgynous, so a lot of times people will read it and automatically assume that I'm female. So, I mean, those things haven't really gotten to a place where I'm just going to correct random people yet, but my friends and people that I know, there we go again with the damn piano, I will correct friends, and surprisingly, I haven't had to do that a lot. Most people have been calling me Finley for about 2 years now, and I haven't really had a problem with getting people to call me by my chosen name, because people do anyway, because it's my last name, and people have called me by my last name routinely because of my time in the military and all of that, and my last name tends to fit me better as a first name for obvious reasons. So my partner will call me Rachel sparingly. She has kind of a hard time with my transition, very partial though it is, and I don't think she's not going to be one of those partners who automatically steps way back and breaks up with you and goes crazy when you transition. She's not like that at all. I mean, obviously, she put a ring on it, so I don't think she's going to do that. But she has a hard time with it, and I give her a wider margin of grace and error than I do anybody else because she's my wife and I love her. And I know that this is difficult for her because she met me at a time when I was just shedding the last of my identity as a female. Whether or not I really knew it consciously at the time, that didn't matter. People were still calling me Rachel and using female pronouns, and I wasn't. At the time I moved down to Portland, I was not using male pronouns. That only happened, I think, 3 or 4 months after I had already moved down here that I switched. So she caught me like pretty much right at the beginning where I was starting to make solid decisions about who I was and how I wanted to be treated. So when she uses female pronouns and calls me by my legal female name, it's not a big deal, as much of a big deal. Obviously the goal is to use male pronouns and to be called by the name that I would like to be called by, but for sentimental reasons, I understand why she sometimes will not do that. So that also brings me to coming out and disclosing to my family, which is obviously one of the biggest hurdles, if not the biggest, in any transition at all, is to say to a family, you know, I'm not your daughter. I'm not this person. I'm still the same person inside, but there are fundamental things about my body that don't match up with who I believe I am. And for my family especially, they're the kind of people who, if it's not spoken aloud, it's not a problem. They're very out of sight, out of mind type of individuals, which is fine. But it makes it difficult to really come to them with meaningful things about my life. And over Christmas break, I became privy to some information that really upset me about some things that they were saying about my lifestyle. And I got very angry, and I posted on my Facebook that I won't be coming home until my family is ready to accept and support me for who I am and who I love and how I live my life. And so my mom read that and became very upset, and I don't know how many more family members read that. I'm friends with a lot of my family on Facebook. So I'm sure they probably read that and got the message, because I'm very open about my experiences, and I'm very open about who I am, which isn't the case with a lot of trans people that I met, not on YouTube, but in real life. They tend to be very closed off about who they are and what they've experienced, and rightfully so. It's a safety issue, and you could lose your job and your family, and I mean, you could lose all kinds of things from being open about being transgender or transsexual. And I understand that. But at the same time, it's counterintuitive and ultimately counterproductive to say, this is who I am, and this is how I want society to view me, and this is how I want them to feel about me, but I'm not willing to talk about it. Okay, so you're saying if you're not willing to talk about being trans, and if you're not willing to be open about who you are, you still expect people to treat you well and be educated and not be ignorant about transgender issues. To me, in my head, that doesn't make any sense. You cannot expect people to just be educated about this stuff. You can't expect someone to wake up, a heterosexual, cisgendered individual, wake up one morning and say, you know what, I think I'm going to read about being transgender and transsexual and gender variancy. I think I'm just going to research that. No heterosexual, cisgender person is going to do that. Find me one who will. But you're not just going to find people who know and who are educated. And I don't think it's fair for us to just expect that community to go off on their own and form unbiased, real experiences and questions and to go out and educate themselves. And it's not fair of us to expect them to be completely cool with it when we just say that we're trans. Because most people don't know. And they're not going to know unless we educate them. And I think it's kind of messed up for us to just expect people to get it. It's like, I don't know. I can't really find anything analogous, but it's just really hard for me to wrap my mind around why we get so upset when they don't understand us, when we're not willing to be open about who we are. And there are risks to being open. As I said, it's a safety risk, it's an employment risk, but how willing are you to live your life with the rights and freedoms that you deserve, how willing are you? And how much are you willing to sacrifice in order to get those things? Because you have to sacrifice discretion to a certain extent, I believe, in order to educate the people around you and make living easier. I don't know if this is making any sense, because I didn't write anything down or really think about this beforehand, but I guess what I'm getting at is that you can't just expect people to be educated about trans issues unless you talk about them. I mean, you don't have to have a YouTube channel and be super open about being trans and talk about it constantly, because that's not your whole identity, but it's part of it. And people are going to ask questions, and you have to be prepared for that. And if you're not, and you get angry about people being ignorant and uneducated, then, oh well, that's kind of your fault. You know, I mean, I hate to be a brute about it, but you can't get your panties in a wad if you don't take the time to educate people, because they're not going to find it any other way. I mean, they can, but they're not going to find that motivation on their own, usually. So that's all I have to say. Also, I need methods to come out and disclose. I'm thinking a blast email to family members. I'm thinking that's probably what I'll do this week. I will start writing it and maybe send it to some friends to see what they think before I actually send it. But the more I talk about coming out and disclosing, the more I feel like now I have an obligation to do it myself. So, yeah, that's all I've got for right now. I hope you guys are having a great Wednesday, and I will talk at you later. Bye.